Hi, everyone. We're going to pick up again with our first session, basically talking about the adult workforce. And these are going to be 4 to 5 small presentations, each one 5 minutes. And Meg Goodine will be the bad cop here. She'll be looking at the speakers and tell them there will be a 1-minute warning. And then basically the timer will go. We'll have to switch over to the next one if the person's finished or not. Just to point out, there's another screen up there if you're having trouble seeing the screen back up here. I hope you're all tweeting Badge BC. That would be great to see. Thanks very much for the feedback that you've given us here. We really appreciate that. I'm going to call up Diana now to pick up with the presentation. Just to say that right after this, we will have a break. So it's great that you're talking right now, but we need to get back onto our schedule.
Hello, everyone. You're cutting into my 5 minutes. How do I control my doohickey?
Arrow that way.
Okay, thanks. Okay, I have 5 minutes and I have 24 slides, so I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. But I'm really glad that the gentleman who preceded me kind of really painted the picture about what badges are. So mine is essentially going to be a review. I'm going to show you what our badges look like. I work for Decoda Literacy Solutions. We're a not-for-profit provincial organization. We provide support to the community-based literacy programs right across the province. There's 91 programs. We provide professional development to the program coordinators who train the tutors, who assess the learners, who support adult upgrading at the community level. It's a non-formal, informal learning system. So I'm going to show you what our badges look like. I'm going to show you what it looks like to issue a badge, and I'm going to show you what it looks like to pick one up. So this is our homepage. When you go to our homepage, if you look under literacy in BC, you know, this menu drops down and you see that second one is digital badges. So you click on digital badges and then you come to the Decoda credentials and digital badges. This is a video, a YouTube clip we embedded into this page. It was done by the, I think it's the Chicago School of Art. It's a 3.5-minute wonderful overview of digital badges. So if you have someone that you're trying to convince or talk to them about badges, this is a really nice way to start. As you scroll down that page, you'll see that we have 2 categories of badges that we've created. One is credentials and badges for learners in the programs, and another series are the badges for the practitioners. We learned that just trying to inspire or teach people about digital badges was quite a steep hill to climb. So we started working with the practitioners first, and we got them excited about badges. So by the same advice that you were given earlier about go out and start collecting your own badges and start stuffing them in your backpack and seeing what that feels like, you start to get a sense of how interesting and how valuable these would be. So it's that same thinking that we put into creating the practitioner badges. So the badges that we have are based on our community adult literacy benchmark. So this was a problem that we were trying to solve, is the problem of accountability and for our programs to have some sort of respectability. It's a non-formal, informal program, but people come in with very clear learning goals. They want to learn how to read better, how to write better, deal with their math, or understand financial literacy. And then when their goals are satisfied, they leave the program. But we wanted to have a way to prove to our funders that there is a piece of learning that has taken place, and that this learning is, you know, there is a way that can be expressed and that can be shared. So these are the badges for learners, and as you scroll down that page, you see these are based on our community literacy benchmarks. Our benchmarks, there are 6 domains for these benchmarks, and within each domain, there are 4 levels. And it's very nicely aligned. If you're familiar with the essential skills framework, it's very nicely aligned with that. Oh, you also see down there, there's some other learner badges, and I might get to those if I have the time. Okay, so here's what the reading badge looks like. There's 4 levels. And then if you click on one of those badges, this is what opens up. This is the verification statement that will be in the badge. You cannot get a badge from our website. There's a different way you get a badge, but for people who want to know about it, this is how you can find out what is in that verification statement. 1 minute, are you kidding me? Okay, these are the other learner badges. So you see that I'll tell you about those. If anyone wants to know about these, ask me. Here's how you issue a badge. Any program who is working with Decoda Literacy Solutions, they can be part of our adult literacy database. So it's a program management system. You enter your learner information. That's how you keep track of your learner progress. So if you see, here's a list of my learners. Look at the very bottom of the list. You see that person, Diana Fleury. That's me. That's my husband's last name, Diana Fleury. So over to the side there, you see that there are these little sections that says 0 badges, certain number of badges. If I click on that, I get to this page that shows me how many badges my student, Diana, has earned. So that's how I record these. Am I done? Do I have to stop? Okay, thanks everyone. I'm going as fast as I can. So when I click on, I'll ask politely. So I click on issue a badge, and then this menu pops up, and then I have a drop-down menu that shows me the badges that I could possibly issue to Diana. If she already has badges, they're no longer in this drop-down menu. Then once I issue it, I still have that nice record of it. Over in Diana's mail, you see at the very top, webmaster@edudata.ca. This is what the user receives, this email, and you see that you may view, claim, or download your badge. So I click on that link, and then that link takes me to this page where all my badges are. So from there, I have the choice to just download that badge or to put it in my backpack. I choose to put it in my backpack. It takes me to my login page. I can also choose whether I want to put that badge in my backpack. I could refuse it. It might be a, I don't know, badge I don't want, I don't know. But you have yes or no, then it goes in your backpack. So this is what my backpack looks like. I have a bunch of these badges. But I wanted to prove to an employer that I know a lot about digital technology, so I'm going to make a digital technology collection. So I just drag these badges over to that area, give it a name, and then if you look at that little icon in the bottom corner of the digital technology collection, that's the sharing icon. So I can share that, and I can choose to send it to my Facebook page, my LinkedIn page, or just get the URL and embed it in a resume. The neat thing about this is that when you click on the toggle for more references, this bit of information pops up. So that's what my employer would possibly see. And then there's another one at the bottom where it says evidence. Very clearly, those are the official verification statements. It says that Diana Twiss at CAPLA OU has this and has these level of skills. Oh, and that was, you want me to make questions? Oh, the challenge is what we were talking about at our table is that, you know, we've printed up all this nice money, you know, made these badges. We have the instructors issuing badges. We have students getting excited about receiving badges. Now the next challenge is spending the badge, using the badge. That's the next stage of our project, is working with employers to see how this resonates for them.
Pardon me. Next up is Patrick Donahoe. I'll get his PowerPoint.
Good morning. And in addition to my role as chair of the board of CAPLA, I'm Dean of Access for this university. I'm delighted to have you all with us today. I'm going to talk very quickly about a conference that happens most years through the Canadian Prior Learning Association. There we go. Okay, so where it all started and why we changed up and why we badged a conference. In 2015, we completed a major quality assurance manual for people who are practitioners of prior learning assessment or recognition of prior learning. Huge amount of information at a piece that a lot of people were looking for to to answer the questions of how can I be sure that we can actually recognize a credit. The pieces of the manual is dense. I think it's very well presented, but it's dense. And we thought, how can we move beyond the conference paradigm to something that is more intense learning? And we decided with the boot camp model to badge it in order to deliver in a fairly intense way for those who wanted to take that learning by the gulp rather than by just sipping it. The 6 steps for quality learning recognition were the basis for what we did. And there's your invitation to the boot camp. We had 125 people come to the conference last fall. We had good learning outcomes so that it was very clear what would happen if you followed the pattern. And we set up 5 stations, 5 learning stations around the tools that make for good RPL assessment, the systems that are necessary, how to do the assessment, the advising and counseling that learners who are coming in for assessment need to have, and how the policy of your institution or your workplace need to be adjusted to make this happen. It was intense. We learned a lot from it. We learned that 50 minutes was not enough. It was a race. We had 125 participants, so we had 5 groups of 25. The presenters each did their presentation 5 times. It was fascinating to debrief with them afterwards and find the universal experience that they had was by the end of the 3rd presentation, they had really sifted through what was the real nuggets that they wanted to get across to people and what they had put in that they would weed it out over the course of the day. So each of this is just an example. This was station 5. I'm assuming that you can read that. We had a guidebook that they could take their notes on, the reflections, what the outcomes were for that session. And to get the badge, you had to complete all 5 stations, do your reflections, and then turn them over for assessment. Sounds like familiar territory, I think. That was the rubric we used for the assessment. You might note that CanCred is there. We partnered with Dawn to make all of this happen. And that was the badge. You've already seen it. So the outcome, the feedback was amazing. Some people said it was too much, too quick, but the majority of the people said, this changed my mind about what I want to get out of learning opportunities that come up. And in some ways, the badge was the carrot. But the idea that as they were sitting in the session, rather than casually taking notes or playing with your iPad with a few notes, there was a sense of, this is real learning. This could be maybe not deep learning, but it's fairly intensive situation. And I'm putting a different mindset than my casual come in, sit at a round table in a conference room, and I have to be an active learner rather than a passive one to make it work. So we've had now requests from 2 other parts of the country to repeat the boot camp on the East Coast and here on the West Coast later this year. And that's where we are from there.
That's great. Next up is Krista Lambert from JIBC.
All right, I'm from the Justice Institute of British Columbia, and we are a public post-secondary educator that trains public safety officials, so police, fire, paramedics for the province. And our initiative is JIBC Live, which stands for Leadership Integrating Values in Education, and it's a staff personal and professional development program. I wish I had some really pretty screenshots, but we're in the wireframe stage, so we have these great boxes. So JIBC Live is a staff engagement initiative that consists of leadership learning modules, and the metaphor we've been using is a mountain range. So a cohort will start the leadership program and will continue to each peak in the mountain range at the same time, but their journey to get to each peak may be different, and they will move at their meandering journey at that at their own speed and at their own pace. So the journey takes place through formal activities, which may include yoga or meditation or physical activities or JIBC courses, or informal activities. So there's a collective, for example, that created a beehive initiative at our institute. So they would receive badges based on the activities they've completed, and the point is that they will receive badges that engage them and reward them and recognize them for their activities within the institute and building the community. And so we are in the very early stages in the planning and the credentialing of this. So in the long term, in the short term, we're looking at establishing the criteria for each of the badges, and then how we can build on those badges moving forward so that people will continue to engage with the program. The platform we're using will be WordPress. We've contracted with True, which is a development company out of Toronto that developed Olympic.ca. And if you've ever visited Olympic.ca, you receive badges and complete your own journey on their website for completing activities within their website. So we took that idea and sort of applied it to the mountain peak journey. I think that's all. So one of our challenges moving forward is first of all, identifying the criteria for all the badges, but also how can we sustain long-term engagement with the program, especially once the cohort has completed the leadership courses, and how can we build on those badges and have levels. And I saw in Diana's presentation that they had various levels for completion, which is great. So we might have to connect with her and find out more about that. So our challenge is long-term. So how can we sustain long-term engagement, and how can participants build upon their personal development and badge achievements within the program? So I don't know if that looks like levels or multi-stage badges or what, but that's what we're trying to figure out moving forward.
Next up, we have Jeff Griffiths from Griffiths Shepherd. And just to say, Patrick, your challenge for the group, if you can share it with the table there, okay?
Okay. How do I hit to move this forward? All right. So yeah, Jeff Griffiths. I'm actually the replacement act. My colleague Janet Lane from the Canada West Foundation couldn't be here. We're about to publish a paper, which I have some copies of around some of this stuff. If you're interested, let me know and I'll make sure you get a copy. What I want you to do, we think a lot about work and skills and the economy and everything else. And I want people to think about what their ideal world of work actually looks like. Just for a second. We don't have a lot of time, only got 5 minutes. In my ideal world of work, everybody works like a dog. And before anybody throws anything, if you've ever seen a dog work, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They're fully engaged, absolutely loving what they do, using all of their skills. Nobody is happier at work than a dog. And they do work that has meaning for them. They're constantly growing. And the best reward is they get to do it again tomorrow. It would be great if we could all work that way, but we know that that's not the case. There's something like 70% of North American workers are disengaged at work, really doing things they don't care about. Usually that, you drill into it, it's because they're not using skills that they have but no one will recognize. And you say, well, you change your job. And you go, well, you can't. Because, again, there's no clear pathway from here to there because of unrecognized, uncredentialed skills. So everybody's seen this or heard this, 400,000 jobs without people and 1.3 million people without jobs. Add to that something like 500,000 skilled immigrants in this country who can't get their skills recognized. And our LMI data is based on knock codes, which don't drill down to the skill level. So we really have no idea what skills the economy actually needs. It's a bit of a head scratcher for companies. Add to that the fact that the robots are coming. Automation, AI is already eliminating jobs now. It's going to change all of the jobs in the future. We don't know exactly how. We just know it will. So we're thinking about all of this stuff. How do you continuously reskill an economy on a continuous basis over a lifetime? And we think that means changing the way we think about jobs and skills and careers and occupations and everything else. Education's absolutely critical, but we know that's not enough because 25% of grads are underemployed. That's a problem, okay? And we know that there's lots of other people who have skills that they have acquired outside of formal learning, and they're undocumented and no one knows or cares about them. So it's that we have no clear method, and this kind of touches on what Don said. We're no real clear method of working within this 70-20-10 paradigm for identifying all of the stuff that people learn outside of formal schooling. So if you're an employer, which is the people I work with, it's a bit of a game of pin the tail on the donkey. You hope you've defined the competencies you're looking for in a hire, and then you hope they didn't lie on their resume, and you hope you make the right choice when you hire them. So it's risky business. I'm really new to this whole open badges thing, and I'm really excited about it. We're working on the critical piece, which I think this has to hang on, which is a national or pan-Canadian, if you're one of the people that likes that language, skills, competency, and qualification framework that we can plug all these badges into and relate it to occupations and industries. The one on the wall is the one that the DOL uses in the States. We don't actually have anything on that scale here. I think we can do it and do it better. Little modules of competency, which is your badges, that can be industry and occupation specific or in fact agnostic. And if you do that, and if we create this connection, and I know, yeah, I got it. There's no such thing as a dead end job anymore, because there's clear pathways from anywhere in the economy to anywhere else in the economy based on these micro skills. If we can combine the badging ideas that you guys have got with some of the stuff we're talking about around the frameworks, I think we've created something that's really, really cool and useful for the employers that I work with. So I'm excited. And I'm really, really, really looking forward to the rest of the day, because I want to learn from the rest of you how we can incorporate these ideas around the digital badging into this concept of a national framework and make something that's really usable. My challenge is to find how we can take what they're doing around open badging and make it national, broaden the scope of what we're trying to do to a national framework. There we go.
So when I set myself up to play sweeper, I didn't realize I was setting myself up to talk 60 miles an hour. Basically, I'm just trying to provide some examples from elsewhere to sort of complement these great stories that we've been hearing. Here's one from Wales, actually, and actually there's a local story very much like this called Knackworks out of the Potluck Cafe, basically taking populations at risk, teaching them employability skills in an authentic environment of delivering services, and then helping them move on to actual productive careers. So, and they're actually badging that. City and Guilds, a very famous awarding body, has gotten into awarding for cookery. So these various ones going all the way from executive chef, master chef, all the way down to line cook. These are badges that are now being offered. They just released this. And basically, you line yourself up against a certification, you assemble your evidence, you pay for the assessment, and you get that badge or you don't. And this is a professional certification in partnership with the World Chefs Organization. So it's the real thing. This is the Scottish Social Services Council. I talk about these folks a lot because it's a really interesting example. They're a regulator and a sector council. It's about 200,000 people. And what they're trying to do is just say that 70-20-10 world, we can't train you everything you need to know. You have to teach yourself. You have to take charge of your own learning. And we can help you do that. And we can badge how you do that so that if you go, instead of basically recall recognition and we assess you, you work with what you're dealing with as a professional. You reflect on that and we will assess your reflection. And so, for example, if you go to a conference, you can get a badge for going to a conference. You can get a badge for saying what you learned at the conference. You can get an even better badge for saying how this conference and what you learned at the conference has affected your practice after the fact. So that's just an example of a badge application over on the right. So why are they doing it? It's talking about pathways, it's talking about incentivizing learning and recognizing, identifying expertise in the community. Actually, one of the things that came out of their badging conferences was the feedback they got from the content of the conference, the people earning the badge. My God, it was gold. Unlike, the food was cold, the parking was no good. It was, here's what I learned. So a concept I want to leave you with, and I'm going to finish up with IBM, but we've been talking about this is the threshold concept I was talking about. So learning is not just within an organization. Learning is with partners and with service providers for them. Think of learning through an entire value chain, everything from your suppliers all the way down to your customers and the feedback loops that come from that. And the way you can extend your influence, so get people onto the same page as you in the community by extending out your digital footprint by saying, here's what we feel is important. Here are the people we recognize as understanding this, and those people become your beacons. Those people become your signals to extend your message out there. This is something that IBM has really found out to their profit, actually. Basically, they're badging what they call resume-worthy achievements. So these are things like working with IBM products. They did this great experiment with Big Data University in Toronto. And huge differences in the level of enrollments, the level of people sticking to the end of a MOOC, the level of people getting the credential at the end of that course, and then basically the value to them, just the badge earner itself. So this is, actually I have a stat I think about, the number of downloads, for example, of a particular product just shot up So people are using that product instead of them taking it along to university saying, please, would you use this? People are using it in more autonomous ways. So they are all over it. Nate was talking about them also working within their organization. So in the same way that, let's say an office in Kuala Lumpur comes up with a new way of doing something, in the knowledge transfer, they can just set it themselves up as a badge issuer within their organization, and they've got the dissemination happening of that innovation. So it's a recursive ecosystem. So, and as a side benefit, we mentioned they're starting to talk about having a consolidated skills registry of the close to 500,000 people that work for IBM worldwide. And they're even talking about saying for larger roles, say enterprise architect, where it's really hard to find people who have all the skills, they're now not doing it with one person. They're doing it with more than one person, getting a composite enterprise architect. So we now have a break for 15 minutes, and we're going to pick up again. Thank you.